Our understanding of daily life in the Bronze Age has changed enormously over the past few decades. For a long time, people's image of this period came mainly from burial sites and scattered tool finds. Actual settlements were almost never preserved well enough to study. Wooden structures had long since rotted away, and textiles or food remains left almost no trace. That changed fundamentally in 2015, with the discovery of the Must Farm site near Peterborough in Cambridgeshire, eastern England. The remarkable preservation of Must Farm was entirely accidental. Sometime between 1000 and 800 BC, a fire broke out without warning in this settlement built on timber piles above a river marsh. The blaze spread with terrifying speed, and the entire community was destroyed within a very short time. The houses and everything inside them collapsed into the water and mud below. It was this rapid burial that allowed vast quantities of organic material to survive in an oxygen-deprived environment for 3,000 years. The team from Cambridge Archaeological Unit, who led the excavations, described it as Britain's Pompeii, a label that resonated widely among both archaeologists and the general public. That label, however, sparked its own small-scale academic dispute online. Archaeologists and history bloggers on what was then Twitter took issue with what they saw as a lazy comparison. Pompeii was a city with a forum, temples, commercial districts, and tens of thousands of inhabitants. Must Farm was a modest cluster of 5 round houses. The two sites are not remotely comparable in scale or complexity. One commenter put it dryly, "By that logic, my burned-down garden shed could also be called Britain's Pompeii." The argument touched on a tension that never quite goes away in the world of heritage communication. Archaeological institutions need to attract public attention and funding, and dramatic comparisons work. But scholars worry that such labels distort public understanding of what a site actually is. Both sides traded blows in comment sections, and the dispute ended up driving more people to read the original excavation reports than might otherwise have bothered. The excavation itself lasted roughly 2 years, and the variety and condition of what came out of the ground astonished the entire archaeological world. Researchers uncovered at least 5 circular wooden roundhouses, each around 8 meters in diameter, raised on timber platforms about a meter above the water. Inside were preserved quantities of everyday objects, spinning tools including spindle whorls and loom components, pottery with food residues still inside some vessels, quernstones for grinding grain, axes, swords, and other bronze tools, along with wooden containers and fragments of wooden furniture. One of the most striking finds was a complete wooden wheel, one of the oldest ever discovered in Britain. A photograph of this wheel, posted to the Reddit community, known for sharing remarkable artifacts, received tens of thousands of upvotes. Comments ranged from someone marveling that a Bronze Age carpenter had put flat-pack furniture to shame, to serious discussions about ancient joinery techniques and what they reveal about the transmission of craft knowledge. Analysis of the food remains gave researchers an unusually rich picture of Bronze Age diet. Using methods from both plant archaeology and animal archaeology, the team found that the people of Must Farm ate a varied range of foods. They grew myrrh, wheat and barley, raised cattle, pigs and sheep, fished the surrounding waters, and gathered wild plants. The sophistication of their food processing was also notable. Residues in certain pottery vessels suggest the inhabitants knew how to store and ferment food. None of this fits the old image of Bronze Age people scratching out a bare subsistence. These dietary findings collided, rather inconveniently, with a wave of content on short video platforms celebrating what various creators called ancestral eating or primal diet. Numerous accounts cited Must Farm as evidence that humans were designed to eat whole grains, fish, and pasture-raised meat, and that modern people should return to a similar pattern. Nutritionists promptly appeared in comment sections to complicate the picture. Archaeological evidence can tell us what people ate, they pointed out, but not what is optimal for health today. And the average lifespan at Must Farm may have been no more than 35 years, which makes the residents a somewhat risky model for longevity. The argument spread across podcasts and nutrition forums, with both sides ultimately holding their ground. But it brought the name Must Farm to an audience that might never have encountered it otherwise. The site also revealed something important about how this community organized its own defense. The entire settlement was enclosed by a perimeter of wooden stakes, with a single wooden bridge as the only point of entry or exit. This design may have been partly practical protection against flooding, but it also suggests anxiety about threats from outside. The Late Bronze Age was a period of intensifying conflict across much of Europe, and the interpretation that these people felt genuinely at risk is hard to dismiss. The number of weapons recovered from the site reinforces this reading. The bronze swords in particular were not merely practical instruments. Their quality of workmanship indicates that they also functioned as markers of status, objects through which the people who owned them announced something about who they were. The cause of the fire itself remains unresolved, and that open question has continued to attract speculation. The mainstream view among archaeologists is that it was accidental. The inhabitants seem to have escaped without taking any valuables with them, which suggests the fire moved faster than anyone could react to. But a competing interpretation reads the same evidence differently. The fact that no one had time to save anything might instead point to deliberate arson, with attackers cutting off escape routes before anyone could gather their possessions. Those who favor this reading point to the weapons found in the surrounding water and to the heavily fortified wooden perimeter as signs of a community that had long lived in the shadow of external threat. A YouTube channel dedicated to Bronze Age history made a documentary of nearly 40 minutes on this question alone. The comment section divided itself, with some insisting the fire was an accident and others convinced it was a coordinated attack, with an intensity of argument more typical of true crime discussions than ancient history. What Must Farm ultimately leaves us with is not just a collection of remarkable objects, but a fundamental shift in how we understand the past. 3,000 years ago, the people living in these marsh-side roundhouses had vessels they had chosen with care, diets that shifted with the seasons, skills in textile making and woodworking, and a watchful awareness of threats beyond the water. A single night of fire destroyed everything they owned while at the same time sealing it perfectly in the mud below, waiting to be opened 3 millennia later. That paradox, where destruction becomes preservation, may be the most quietly arresting thing about Must Farm. It is what allows the site to keep prompting genuine reflection long after the media coverage fades and the comment sections go quiet.